Addiction doesn't start with a bottle, a pill, or a screen. It starts with a whisper, a moment of relief. You're overwhelmed, exhausted, restless, and a little afraid. You tell yourself, just this once. You'll be fine. It makes the pain softer. It quiets the noise.
For a moment, it feels like a gift. But the thing about gifts is they come with strings.
That moment of escape becomes a ritual. A ritual becomes a habit a need. And suddenly the river you thought you controlled becomes a water you can no longer stand against. Maybe your addiction looks like late night scrolling, drinking to cope, gambling for adrenaline, consuming to forget. Maybe it's something quieter, chronic people-pleasing, caffeine overuse, working 80-hour weeks, numbing out on perfectionism, anxious overthinking. It doesn't always wear black. Some addictions wear white coats. They look pristine. They're praised. They get promotions. They make the world think you're in control. But addiction isn't always owned by substances. It's owned by the heart that aches, the mind that fears, the body that remembers trauma. It is often a way of coping with invisible burdens. You might be wired to heal, to feel deeply, to outpace pain. And addiction promises to carry some of that weight for you. It says, I'll lighten the load. I've got this. And for a little while, you believe it. But it's not care. It's coping. A thin, borrowed calm that fades when the buzz ends, or the credits roll, or the drink empties, or the deadline passes.
And here's the cruelest part.
The more you reach for relief, the further you drift from who you are. Because addiction isn't just about the thing you need. It's about what happens when you're left alone with yourself. The sorrow, the insecurity, the fear, the emptiness that no addiction can truly fill.
That's why it's so hard to quit.
Because you're not just giving up the substance or behavior, you're facing what you were trying to escape.
And you didn't know you were being so brave.
You didn't know that every time you reached for the escape, your heart was saying, please don't leave me alone. But there's a deeper heartbreak, learning to see it, to admit it, to whisper back, I'm here. Because addiction lives in the shadows. It hides in your justifications. Your last time. Your I'll do better tomorrow. Your I can handle it. Your I deserve this. And every whispered excuse becomes a brick in a wall built around your true self. And what you forget is that the person you were before this began, that person is not gone. They're only waiting. Behind the wall. Behind the habit. Behind the mask.
They're tired of watching from behind glass. They want to move forward again.
They want to dream of mornings when the buzz isn't necessary, when the numbness isn't endless, when meaning comes from your heartbeat, not from prescribed pills pumping adrenaline, pixel-dose dopamine. You can't see them clearly yet. They're a bit blurry, familiar but distant. But that's okay. Healing doesn't begin with vivid clarity. It begins with gentle awareness.
It begins when you say, I feel helpless. I don't know how to stop. I'm scared of what comes next. You might feel small, weak, broken, but what you're really doing is standing at the edge of your life. And that right there, that moment of realness is courage. Because admitting the struggle means you're no longer hiding. You're no longer pretending it's okay. You're beginning to awaken, bit by bit, building a bridge back. And it won't be easy, but it already shows signs of greatness.
Addiction doesn't scream. It whispers. It never barges in. It knocks politely. It comes in quietly and says things you want to believe.
It's not that bad. You've been so strong. You deserve this. You're not like those people. You can stop whenever you want.
But behind every whisper is a hook. Behind every comforting lie is a tightening thread that slowly wraps around your life.
The first time you rely on something to cope, it feels like a choice. The 10th time, it feels like a habit. The 100th time, it feels like a part of who you are.
And this is where addiction becomes invisible, when it becomes part of your identity.
Not something you do, but something you are.
You stop saying, I use this to cope, and start thinking, this is just me.
You don't remember when the line got crossed. Addiction's greatest trick is convincing you that without it, you're nothing. That without that pill, that bottle, that phone, that control, you'll collapse. That if you let go, the pain will eat you alive. So you hold on tighter, even when it costs you time, even when it hurts people you love, even when you lie about it, even when it makes you hate yourself.
Because the lie it tells is so deep, so convincing, so wrapped in fear that you'd rather stay stuck than face the unknown.
Because what comes after quitting feels terrifying. What comes after numbness feels too sharp. What comes after distraction feels too real. So you say, I can't sleep without it. I can't calm down without it. I don't know who I'd be without it. And addiction nods, smiles, and says, exactly. But here's something addiction doesn't want you to hear. You were someone before the addiction. You existed before the behavior. You had pain, yes, but you also had strength. It wasn't the addiction that made you survive. It was you. All along, it was you.
Addiction took the credit. It wore your pain like a costume. It acted like a hero when it was really the thief.
Because here's the truth, most people don't say out loud.
Addiction feels like it helps until it starts to destroy.
And the hardest part of recovery isn't the cravings. It's mourning the false comfort. Because when you quit, it's not just the substance you're letting go of. You're letting go of your favorite excuse, your emotional crutch, your backup plan, your shield from facing who you really are. And that's terrifying. But it's also the beginning, because for the first time you get to meet yourself again.
Not the numb version. Not the hiding version. Not the lying version.
The you who feels fully, who remembers how to rest, who is tired of running. You won't know what that version looks like at first. They'll feel unfamiliar, too raw, like walking outside without armor. But you'll also feel something else, relief, honesty, real connection. Because when the lie dissolves, you get your truth back. And that truth, it's not shame, it's not weakness. It's that you wanted to be okay. You didn't know how, but you tried. And that's not addiction. That's humanity. You weren't broken, you were scared. And now you're choosing something different. Not because you're strong all the time, but because you're finally ready to stop believing the lie. Here's something that might surprise you. Most people aren't addicted to a substance. They're addicted to what it gives them. Not the cigarette, the calm, not the alcohol, the silence, not the phone, the escape.
Not the gambling. The thrill of control in a world that feels uncontrollable.
Nobody wants to ruin their life. People want to feel something better than pain. And sometimes addiction works until it doesn't. That's what makes it so cruel. It starts as a solution, a comfort, a moment of peace in the storm. And for a while, it works. It gives you relief. It makes your brain feel okay for the first time in days, weeks, years. And that's no small thing. So when someone says, why don't you just stop? They don't understand the real question. What happens to me if I do? Because now we're not talking about the substance anymore. We're talking about the fear underneath it. And that fear sounds like, if I don't numb this pain, it'll break me. If I don't keep my mind busy, I'll hear thoughts I don't want to hear. If I stop now, I'll have to face what I've been running from. This is why addiction is more than a habit. It's a trauma response, a shield, a story you had to tell yourself to survive. And sometimes it's not even one big trauma. It's small things repeated every day. The constant pressure, the loneliness, the feeling that no one really sees you.
The endless loop of almost good enough, almost strong enough, almost loved.
Addiction becomes the answer when life doesn't give you better ones. And here's where it gets deeper. You might not even know what you're truly addicted to. Some people are addicted to being needed. Some are addicted to control. Some are addicted to approval. Some are addicted to chaos because calm feels foreign and scary.
You can quit the substance, but if the need underneath stays unhealed, something else will take its place.
The addiction will just shapeshift. That's why people quit drinking and start obsessively working. Quit vaping and start binge eating. Quit social media and start people pleasing. Because the brain is still trying to fix something emotional with something external. But here's the quiet breakthrough. Addiction always points to pain. Always. And pain always points to something that needs love. Not punishment. Not shame. Love.
The part of you that uses too much, scrolls too long, hides too deeply. It's not evil.
It's a part of you that didn't know what else to do. It's scared. It's tired. It's doing its best. And yes, it's causing harm. Yes, it's time to change. But it won't change with hate. It changes when you start asking better questions. Not why am I like this, but what am I still carrying? What old memory still burns? What relationship taught you you weren't safe? What dream did you bury when the world said you weren't enough? That's the real work of healing. Not just quitting something, but replacing it with truth, with connection, with self-respect, with practices that nourish you instead of numb you. Because when you take away the addiction, there's a hole. And if you don't fill it with something loving, the pain will fill it for you. Recovery isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the hurt. The kid who laughed without fear. The teen who wanted to be seen. The adult who still dreams of peace but doesn't know how to reach it. You're not weak for struggling. You're not broken for needing help. You're human. And this exact moment where you're reading this and thinking, maybe this is me. This is not failure. This is a beginning of seeing yourself clearly. Maybe for the first time. Addiction doesn't begin with the first hit, the first sip, or the first swipe. It begins with a feeling you don't know how to handle. And then comes the moment, the thing you reach for.
The scroll, the cigarette, the drink, the pill, the game.
The momentary fix, the relief. Your brain lights up. Just a little dopamine. Just enough to forget. But it never lasts.
Because after the high, even if it's mild, even if it's just a moment of escape, comes the crash.
Guilt. Shame. Regret. And here's the worst part. Those feelings, they're even heavier than the ones that triggered the addiction in the first place. So what do? You reach for the thing again. Because now you're not just numbing the original pain, you're numbing the pain caused by trying to numb the pain. This is the cycle.
Pain, escape, relief. Crash, more pain, more escape.
It's not because you're lazy or weak.
It's because your brain was trying to protect you, but it never learned another way.
And the more you repeat it, the more automatic it becomes. Addiction teaches your brain something dangerous. This is the only way to survive. And every time you try to stop, your mind fights back. Not because it hates you, but because it's scared of what comes next. It whispers, you can't live without this. You'll fail again, so why try? You've already messed up. Might as well keep going. Sound familiar? That's not your voice. That's the addiction talking. And it talks with confidence because it knows your fears. It's studied you. It's been beside you in your lowest moments. It offers comfort when no one else does, even if that comfort is poison. This is why the cycle is so hard to break. Not just because of chemical dependence, but because of emotional dependence. You're not just quitting a habit. You're grieving the only coping mechanism that ever made life feel manageable. That grief is real. And it's not just for the thing you're letting go of. It's for the years you lost to it. The relationships you damaged. The version of yourself you abandoned. And sometimes the scariest thing isn't the addiction itself. It's the silence that comes when it's gone. The blank space. The rawness. The vulnerability of facing life without a buffer. So if you've tried to quit before and gone back, don't hate yourself for it. Relapse doesn't mean failure. It means the pain got too loud again. It means you need more tools, more support, more truth. You don't heal from addiction by just saying no. You heal by learning how to say yes to something better. That takes time. That takes patience. That takes grace, the kind you rarely give yourself. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to not know how to start. But if you're reading this, you have started. You're interrupting the cycle right now with awareness. And awareness is always the first step to freedom.
There comes a moment, quiet, almost unremarkable, when something shifts. Maybe you wake without the usual pit in your stomach. Maybe you taste breakfast instead of guilt. Maybe, for the first time in a long while, you catch yourself smiling for no reason at all.
That moment is proof. The cycle can be broken.
Recovery rarely announces itself with fireworks. It's more like dawn inching across a night sky life, so slowly you don't notice until the room is filled with light. You still carry cravings, memories, scars. You still have thoughts that circle back to old comforts. But alongside them lives a new awareness. I have a choice now.
Choice is freedom in its earliest form. You can choose the phone call instead of the bottle. You can choose the walk instead of the website.
You can choose to feel the feeling instead of fleeing it. At first, each choice feels fragile, like glass you're sure will shatter. Sometimes it does. A rough day, a sudden trigger, a lonely night, and you slip. That slip is not the end, it's information. It shows you where the wound is still tender, where another layer of care is needed.
So you add care. You learn to breathe when panic flares. You learn to ground when shame swells.
You learn that community is medicine because recovery is never a solo journey. You let safe people stand beside your hardest truths. Their presence reminds you that connection can soothe what chemicals once numbed.
Slowly, the spaces between cravings stretch.
Your nervous system recalibrates. Your brain begins to relearn pleasure that isn't borrowed or toxic. You rediscover small wonders, rain on warm pavement, the weight of a pet's head on your lap, a genuine laugh that erupts without help from any substance. And then comes trust, first in tiny drips. You trust yourself to keep a promise for one afternoon, then a weekend, then a month. You trust your body's signals, hunger, fatigue, excitement, even sadness. You trust that feelings can pass through without drowning you. What trust returns vision. You start imagining what life could look like beyond mere avoidance of relapse. Goals resurface. Passions flutter awake. You let yourself want things again. Healthy love, meaningful work, simple peace. Those wants become anchors, pulling you forward when nostalgia for the old escape tugs you back. Some days will still ache. The world won't cushion itself just because you're healing. Bills arrive, relationships test you, memories ambush you. Yet inside, something stays steady, the knowledge that you have survived 100% of your darkest hours so far. And you did it while carrying the weight of addiction. How much lighter will the next miles feel as you set that weight down piece by piece? Forgive the lost years. Mourn them, but then plant seeds in their empty spaces. Today's small, nourishing habits will grow into forests of resilience tomorrow. Recovery is less a destination than a landscape you cultivate, one mindful act, one honest conversation, one compassionate breath at a time. Most of all, remember this. You were never the chaos. You were the one enduring it. Under every craving, every relapse, every moment of despair, there has always been a self who wanted to live. That self is still here clearer now, ready to steer. So keep choosing, imperfectly, courageously, repeatedly. Keep replacing the lie of escape with the truth of connection. Keep letting morning light find you. Because freedom isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of hope, strong enough to guide you through it. And hope, quiet, relentless, and yours, has already begun writing your next chapter.